Howdy! Hope the sound is good. Looks like the sound is working. Discord is working. Real quick before we get started, press the two buttons if you don't mind. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that great stuff. Links are in the description below so we don't waste any time. All the discounts and wonderful stuff about the Technical Analysis Universities at the end, so better stay with me, and all the surprises and secret information is also at the end. So yeah, let's go. Let's get started. Not a crazy, all that eventful of a day today. We started with opening with a gap down, then we moved a little bit towards the gap, a couple of attempts, did not really fill in the gap. The gap is still, there's still a remnant of the gap at around 7,707. Momentum right now is looking downwards, and let's go over the various time frames, see what the market is implying that it is going to do. So right now, we are, let's go back here, 1 minute. So 1 minute, we said we had a bit of a gap right there at the open, ranging from 707 all the way to 7,690. Right now, bearish momentum within a framework of a channel that is looking down. 5 minutes, again, not all that significant as always, more so for the day traders, but appears to be switching over right now. In fact, I would argue that it is currently locked in inside the narrower channel, moving from one edge from here to here. So it appears subject to the current channel. Pardon me for, yeah, that, but give or take. As you can see, the channel kind of moving into that range right there. So I'm not going to be surprised if we're going to see more of that teetering back and forth, basically. So not all that significant. 30 minutes, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting, simply because the 30 minutes candlesticks show us a better projection outwards. And if we look at this right now, that appears to be that we are holding bearish quite strongly, and more so that makes sense. We're basically moving from one edge of the channel towards the bottom edge. Let's see where the larger channel resides. So it's not going to be surprising, basically, that we are right now moving within the framework of the current channel towards this area. And I would argue that our confluence area would be probably somewhere around here, 7,600-ish range. So although we probably will see a little bit of a corrective move still back and forth, or sort of that regular ebb and flow. You know what I'm talking about, Casey, back and forth, so not much to talk about in the 30 minutes. 45 minutes is indicative of a downtrend still, although we are currently at the bottom of the short range channel. I would argue that we're still probably moving right here, just as we saw in the 30 minutes where the channel resides, simply because of how momentum downwards is strong right now still. It appears to me that the market right now is making an effort to move lower towards the gap that we have left on that antenna-like structure, or zit sort of thing, at around 7,630, 7,607. So I'm not going to be all that surprised if moving within to that range, into that corner that we just saw on the 30 minutes, basically. Not going to be all that surprised if moving into that range, what will happen is we're going to end up feeling that gap right here, like so. So yeah, that's pretty much the assessment right now, given the 45 minutes structure and how bearish it all is. 1 hour is also very bearish, so it appears that it's pointing downwards. Momentum is accelerating. In fact, as we're gonna cross over that 20 range on the stochastic RSI, we're far more likely to accelerate and move even faster towards the assessed ranges as 7,600, basically 40 and lower. That seems to be the direction right now. So let's see, 4 hours is confirming, 4 hours is likewise very bearish. Again, although today is rather bearish in all regards, I would argue that it's not all that too eventful. We are just merely seeing a corrective motion towards that range that we have been moving sideways within the framework of for some time now. And so all we're seeing right now is merely a correction. And I've been warning this will of course happen, given how we in fact shouldn't even had that. It's more of a reactionary structure and should have been a lot more tamed down and towards the inward sort of turn to the back end of the cycle. The daily is extremely bearish, as you can tell, and so is very indicative of a broader continuation. Basically, if we're going to continue all that mess that I will just try to remove after testing all that crap right here, pardon me, we will end up continuing even further lower. Beyond that range, we will continue further lower, closing in, as we said, the gap, and most likely so 7,384. This is the current active support range, although yes, we can slip right out of it given how fast and strong the momentum downwards will be. We will end up not being able to be stopped by this singular support level, although it is a very strong one. It's a technical strong level. There is a handful of adjacent parallel levels right next to it, and so I'm not going to be surprised if as a set as a whole put together they will end up to being able to stop the price action at roughly around 7,350, let's call it 7,350. That is, give or take, the range the market is showing signs of moving towards. If we're looking at the daily time frame, as we saw all that bearish momentum, and we do understand that by tomorrow we'll probably see multiple times shift over between bullish and bearish inside of that thing. People, but Greg, we have left gaps above and this and that. It's not the end all and be all of all things. In fact, I would not be surprised if we will end up slipping right through the current gap and just continue hurtling downwards. Gaps are not that detrimental, and they do end up getting filled in, especially when the price action ends up moving back higher. So it's not all that abnormal to see gaps being left behind. As I've said before, gaps are more of a ripple effect, a side effect, byproduct, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, they're not all that important. Now, right back at you. Now, yes. Kisha, you want to show up and say hello? So on the weekly, as I was warning, which we saw signs in the smaller time frames as we were progressing, the weekly starting to fold in on itself at around the 50 range, just as I warned it will, which is indicative of that sideways like, or rather transition of momentum. The more that bearish momentum we just watched on the daily, 4-hourly, hourly play in, the more that weekly will become weaker and weaker and weaker. And so we're going to see more of a transition downwards on the weekly scale of things, given how we basically have whatever is left from today and just tomorrow. And tomorrow appears to be quite bearish. If we look at the daily, we already can see that tomorrow appears to be a lot more bearish than bullish. So it's not going to be all that surprising if tomorrow we're going to see behavior that's actually very, very similar to what we're observing right now on the grand scheme of things, which is again a downwards trend-like behavior, even if we're going to have temporary relief rally within it. But the broader scheme of things is pointing downwards, and downwards very strong and fast. So it appears that next week, in fact, is going to be a lot more bearish if that weekly momentum will shift over between today and tomorrow, or at least will look like as if it's going towards confluence, towards convergence, the two forces. And it's not going to be all that surprising then if we're going to be able to see basically a completion, a full completion of that process, as I anticipated, throughout next week. Basically next week, it appears to be right now on the charts, the current setup seems to be that we're going to be moving back to 7,384.45 throughout next week. All right. Monthly, of course, grown to be a little bit more bearish since the last session or two, because all that bearish momentum, of course, is translating into the larger time frames. And so we're seeing right now that, of course, we are at 80 basically, and we are having confluence. Our K, our bullish momentum, our bullish moving average, or rather what represents our bullish moving average, is now below 80s at the value of 79.63. Our bearish momentum is dominant with 80.94. Basically, we're having a lot more bearish liquidity, a lot more short selling and profit taking rather than buying actively. And on the monthly scale, that is now becoming more and more visible. That means we're basically now a lot more bearish than we were in the previous months. And so if we're looking at the quarterly, has the quarterly has been affected yet? Well, not yet. What I anticipate the quarterly to sort of shift over and look a lot more what we see on our quarterly NASDAQ. I would say probably in about a month or so, probably at least 2 to 3 weeks before we're able to see the momentum on the S&P look a little bit more like what we are right now observing on NASDAQ. But NASDAQ will be leading and indicative of where the S&P will be at some point rapidly catching up with, even though right now the quarterly on the S&P appears to be semi convergent, sort of, not really certain. It's kind of having that mixture of bullish and bearish momentum. Arguably what we're observing within literally, I would argue, probably a week worth of sessions, we're going to be able to see this RSI indicator look a lot more, develop almost this, instead of having this belly, develop this almost very shallow like structure that's going to start flipping over. Or if we're going to end up filling in this quarter, which is very unlikely, we're going to end up seeing it sort of starting to break down post the area that we have right here, basically kind of diverging back from each other, although not having a proper crossover, almost like having a structure like so, okay, from here. So at the moment, basically everything we're observing shows that the market is going to continue and be a lot more bearish for the following sessions. Whether we're going to have some temporary retests and maybe attempts to fill in, whether it is the gap right above us, whether it's the gap right above that one, whether it is a quick movement, as we said, towards 7,600, lower 7,600 area, or maybe even lower, 7,584, which is already a strong anticipated level. So we know there is a series of support and resistance levels here right in that area. So it's not going to be all that surprising if we're going to start moving lower faster, basically in the following sessions. And even today's session probably is going to end up a lot more bearish than what it appears to be right now. In fact, I'm not going to lie, the momentum is so bearish, so I'm not going to be surprised if the market will suddenly start rushing towards 7,584, and before the end of the session actually completing and filling in the gap that we have left at around the 3rd of August, the 3rd of the month, basically. When we started the month, we've developed this gap on the way up, and I'm not going to be surprised if that gap will be diminished on our way down literally today or tomorrow. That is it, ladies and gents. All of you who want to learn advanced technical analysis and be in the know, not going to be caught off guard or with your pants down at such circumstances. Right now, temporarily until the end of the month, I have a significant discount on all the tiers, including the one-on-one academy. No, this is not a monthly payment. This is a one-time payment for those who wonder. And basically, as you see, if you switch that little switch to pay annually, instead of paying $90 a month for full access to the Discord and the community and all the great stuff that comes with it, you now instead get 50% off of $72. So you get a 20% discount, and on top of it 50%. So basically up to 70% discount on most of the tiers. Right here on your academy tier, you just get that annual 20% off. As you can see, basically instead of $5,000, it's a one-time payment, and then it's only either $15 a month after you finish the academy, or only $6 a month if you get to sign up throughout the current month. It's all that simple and rapid. You just sign up to this, make sure the payment comes through, and you transition to this tier, which I will give you a link to. No problem, to solve all your problems. All right, so from here, or another way you can go about it is just sign up to this tier and pay through PayPal directly via the link I'll give you. On the one-on-one call I'll have with you to do a little bit of a KYC, get to know you, to know who you are, as you know your client, so to speak. And during that time, I'll be able to give you a link to my PayPal, and the time being, you'll be able to subscribe to this link, not even dealing with this headache. That's it, ladies and gents. I hope to see you all in the community. Casey, as always, you beautiful legend. Shout out to you. Appreciate your time being here with me. Shout out to all of those who will watch this later. Academy members, do not forget we have a meeting in about an hour and 20 minutes on the Discord, as always. We're gonna discuss various assets, a couple of interesting questions the members have right now on hand, and that's pretty much it. Love you all, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now, and don't forget to watch my gold video from yesterday. Tremendously important video for everyone to watch. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the